Good evening. I'd like to call to order this business meeting for the Cave Creek Unified School District. Today is Monday, February 13th. And would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Evening, our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our student leader, Lily Dawiduk from Lone Mountain Elementary.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call this evening. All board members are present. Members of the cabinet that are present are Mrs. Scott, Dr. Jensen, Dr. Hendrickson, Mrs. Rodriguez, and Dr. Monroe is absent this evening. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second? Are there any changes?
Second.
I would like to pull. I'd like to table items 6.1 and 6.2 for a future board meeting per policy BEDBA. We have not voted for them to be put on as action items as a board.
6.1
and 6.2. We have presentations on them, but we have not discussed them as action items.
Is there a second on that?
A second.
Are there any other?
Yes, we also need to pull out of action consent items 4.1 and 4.8, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the amended agenda, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Okay, our agenda is amended. Okay, moving right along, there are forms in the back for a call to the public. Please fill them out and give them to Mrs. Scotto. President's report, that would be me. In the last couple of weeks, I've attended the Horseshoe Trails Kindergarten Roundup, which was very exciting, and it was great to see so many enthusiastic new faces. I was also at our job fair, and Dr. Hendrickson has a very nice event set up for prospective employees, and I think that was all that I attended. So are there any board comments?
Well, I just wanted to mention that we recently reassigned our school adopted schools, and so I was given Desert Sun, so I quickly got in touch with Ms. Zivchek and had a nice tour, spent the morning there, listened to what they were doing. Thank you, Patty, for Dr. Jensen, for also allowing me to do that. It was great to hear their thoughts about their school and their concerns about what's happening with their school. So it was a good time to be there. So thank you for that.
Any other board comments?
Sure. Black Mountain had their science night, and my husband was on duty for that one, but I did get to see the fireworks from my home, so that was lovely. I was the driver for the junior high school dance, so we had to divide and conquer for both of those things that were going on last Friday. Been to an improv show at the high school the week before, and also a varsity boys soccer game. It was freezing cold. It was weather similar to this, but lots of things happening. So that's it.
Any other comments?
I've been a busy guy. I've tried to hit a lot of places, so I got a rather long list. I apologize for that. Attended the Business Partners Breakfast. We also stopped in here at the job fair. I visited the Lone Mountain Kindergarten Roundup, where they had about 35 or 40, I think, new prospective kindergartners. So it was lots of energy on campus. Visited the Future Stinger Night, which was the parents-only version, with Mrs. Sereno and Mr. Boggs, who did a great presentation. So if there was any questions after that, they handled all the items. So it was a well-done presentation. Was able to attend the Cactus Shadows Student Council Powder Puff game. The senior freshman team won over the junior sophomore team 30-8. And I have to, the Powder Puff game is a fundraiser for their Stand Up to Cancer. And if anybody's interested, I have my program. If you shoot the QR code, you can make a donation to their account, which is their fundraising for the Stand Up to Cancer. And then on a side note, I have to congratulate Miss Quinn Myers-Lenz, who's a senior this year, whose 2 touchdowns, I have to have this with a tear, breaks my daughter's record of 5 touchdowns. Her 2 touchdowns that night gave her 6 career touchdowns in Powder Puff. Shelby, my daughter, held the record for 9 years, so I hope Quinn gets to hold the record for as long as Shelby did. So it was a great event once again by the Stuco group. They always do it's a fun night out there. Also was a little chilly, so that's okay. It's been colder for Powder Puff. Other than that, we saw the boys, Cactus Shadows boys basketball senior night was up there for that. And that's always a bittersweet event, their last game on home court, the 4 seniors and the 1 senior manager. So always a little emotional for the parents to walk their kids through the arch for one last time. Saw the boys volleyball tryouts last week, which seemed rather well. Good turnout. The new coach there thought he would be able to fill the 2 teams' rosters without any problems. And then high school girls basketball, got to watch their first round playoff game, which was a win over Chaparral. Yay. So they're slotted. I haven't checked the brackets. It should be coming up here this week. And then Friday, I also attended the Black Mountain Science Fair, which was a fantastic event. The campus was full. It was very well done. Just a shout out, I had Mr. Ellison's 6th grade class. They were doing lots of different hands-on activities, making that goo. And once the kids made the goo, they couldn't get it off their hands, which was a lot of fun to watch them try to figure out how to get that in the baggies. They also was doing dry ice soap bubbles, which were pretty cool. Kids being able to work with that. Mrs. Stewart's kindergarten class was all about bees, and they had a great little setup in her room, and I got to learn all about bees, which were very important to our economy and our agriculture. And then Mrs. Spigarelli's 3rd grade class was doing desert animals, and I had a young lady in her class named Lexi, and she taught me all about jackrabbits. And there's 2 things I learned at that jackrabbits can run 45 miles an hour and that they can swim. And I didn't know they could swim. So, but all in all, a fantastic event once again at Black Mountain, and all the schools do great events for families. So thank you.
Thank you. You were busy.
As the new kid on the block, I'm jumping in and getting my feet wet, so I don't have anything to report tonight, but I have a couple things on the calendar and look forward to visiting a number of our schools and getting involved.
Thank you. Item 1.8, since Dr. Monroe is absent this evening, there will be no superintendent's report. 2.1, call to the public. I do have one request for comments.
President Busby, could I interrupt real quickly just so we can introduce our student leader?
Yeah.
Typically, we do that with the superintendent's report, and so
Sure.
I know since we didn't have it.
Of course.
I'm pleased to present to you all this evening our student leader of the month. One of the great things we do in Cave Creek is always build up our student leaders as not only leaders in their school, but also in the community and their civic leadership. So this evening, Lily is sitting on the dais, and she's going to share just a bit about what she loves about Lone Mountain.
Hi, my name is Lily Dalviduk, and I'm a sixth grader at Lone Mountain Elementary School. I have been attending Lone Mountain since second grade. It is an amazing school. One of my favorite things about the school is the PALS program. I love helping and hanging out with the students. Being around them makes me feel happy and joyful. One of my favorite things to do outside of school is play softball. I am on a club team and a little league team. My favorite position is shortstop because there's always something you have to be doing. I'm excited to attend STMS Middle School because there's so many options and opportunities compared to elementary school. I am very grateful to be nominated as the student leader of elementary school. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, item 2.1, call to the public. I do have one request for a call to the public, and before I call that individual up, I do need to read this statement. According to ARS 38-431.01, governing board members may not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public. The only allowable responses a governing board member may make are: 1, board member may respond if there is a direct criticism of the board member. 2, the board member may direct staff to look into a matter. Or 3, a board member can ask to have this item placed on a future agenda. Speakers need to be mindful of what they say when presenting to the board. Inappropriate comments could be considered slanderous. And with public comments, you will have 3 minutes to speak. And when you come up to the microphone, please state your name clearly in the microphone. And our one public comment will be from Cindy Cummins.
President Busby and board members, my name is Cindy Cummins. I'm speaking today as a representative of Action for Students. Today is another day our teachers are paid at the bottom 15% in the state. With contract negotiations underway, Action for Student encourages the board to approve the minimum request due to the limited budget. But what actions does the board have planned to positively impact this pay? Now's the time to set the direction for the upcoming school year. For retaining and attracting quality educators, our priority. Additionally, we are thankful that the legislature is doing what is right by lifting the aggregate expenditure limit. Now we need to continue the fight to eliminate this approval process completely and stop allowing legislatures to use public education as a bartering chip. If funding is approved, it should be fulfilled, period. Simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 3.1, the Carefree Cares Excellence Award, and this will be presented by Mayor John Crane, Vice Mayor Cheryl Croyer, and Councilman Vince DeLisio.
Madam President, board members, thank you very much for the opportunity to come here today and honor some of the best members of your staff from each school. I'm here this evening with Vice Mayor Cheryl Croyer, and Councilman Vince DeLisio was unable to join us. He's under the weather today. But what I'd like to share with you and the audience is the criteria that's used to select the 7 teachers we're going to honor this evening. So the criteria for selection: each award recipient shall volunteer substantial time and expertise to the Cave Creek Unified School District, the school and/or the community, be a positive role model for students, staff, and community, serve as an inspiration to others, and always respects the CCUSD and the community in a positive and professional manner. And for us, this is a program we run every quarter, and for us, this is a golden opportunity to show our appreciation to the staff and our respect for what they do, because we know it's a challenging profession, and we just really appreciate it and just welcome the opportunity to come before you and the audience and the school district and to call them out and to let them know what we think. So thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're going to ask our board members if they will come down here to congratulate our award winners, and you guys as well.
on up.
We will call their names. You have the pin, we have the certificate, and we'll go from there. So first and we do have comments about each one. I hope you can take some time. If not, they're still in board docs, so they're in public record as well. Our first person from Black Mountain Elementary is Miriam Fowler, the kitchen manager. Shake hands. Next one.
And our next nominee is Karen Galvin. Please come on up. Karen's not able to join us today, so we will save this for her for next time.
Our next Carefree Cares recipient is Jamie Hickson, a teacher aide from Horseshoe Trails Elementary School.
And our next recipient, Alexis Huss from Cactus Shadows High School. Oh, wait. Oh. We got you.
Our next recipient is Dee Pipitone, a PALS teacher, as featured by Lily, from Lone Mountain Elementary School.
Our next recipient is Alicia Velva. Come on up. From Sonoran Trails.
And our final Carefree Cares winner this evening is Amanda Whitaker from Desert Sun Academy.
Our students, this is for our students of the month. The mission of the Cave Creek Unified School District is to provide an innovative, high-quality learning experience for all students. By facilitating strategies to develop curious, resilient, critical thinking problem solvers, students will be empowered to make a difference while inspiring excellence in our families, community, and the world. In Cave Creek Unified, we believe that every learner is unique and deserves the power to shape a personal path towards success. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep on doing so until the end." We know that these students being recognized here tonight exhibit great character, do their very best, and inspire excellence through their effort, achievement, and service to others. These students receive this recognition and nomination from their individual teachers and principals at their own school, and we recognize them here tonight. They are the best of the best and the reason that each of us serves on the school board. Truly, they inspire excellence. When I call your name, I would like you to come forward and shake each board member's hand, as well as Mrs. Scott and Dr. Jensen's, when you are recognized, and then stay standing for a photo at the end. Okay. Our first student is Gavin Creech from Black Mountain Elementary School. Our next student is Elias Morris from Lone Mountain Elementary School. Our next student is Ryan Amenta from Horseshoe Trails Elementary School.
Congratulations.
Our next student from Desert Sun Academy is Nicholas Elias. Our next student is Ethan Morgan from Desert Willow Elementary School. Our next student is Paula Angu. Hang on.
Paula Angelo Ruiz.
Congratulations. Okay, there's a step right here. There's a step. You got it?
Okay, come down here. Come down here. Okay. Our next student is Lily Lombardo from Cactus Shadows High School.
Congratulations.
And we have one student that wasn't able to be here, but we do want to recognize him. That is Jamison Kesty from Lone Mountain Elementary School.
One more photo. And then,
Parents and Students of the Month, we are going to go ahead and do a 3-minute recess. So if you guys would like pictures with principals, any other pictures, and then you are more than welcome to either stay or head on out. Have a great evening. Thank you for joining us. Do you guys want me to take a family pic? Kristen has it. All right.
Thank you.
No, it's a different type of recess.
Recess means
He's getting ready to play. He says, "Why are we getting wrong?"
Are we ready to move on? All right, item 3.3, the 2022-2023 interest-based negotiation team recommendations presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
Good evening, President Busby and Governing Board. I'm excited to present to you on behalf of the staff here in Cave Creek Unified our interest-based negotiations overview of the process and then recommendations for the board moving forward. I have the clicker, so I'll do that. Just as a reminder, as we look at where does our IBN process align with our strategic plan, obviously a lot of it is going to fall under employee excellence and making sure that we are supporting our employees both with professional development, growth opportunities, but also compensation. And that ultimately leads to student success. When we have the best educators in the state, we are going to have the best student outcomes in the state as well. I do have a large group that is with me. This is the heart of the IBN team and the IBN process. And so I want to recognize them. We have members from both our classified, certified, and administrative staff. So if you would stand to be recognized real quick, and I'm going to give you a round of applause for all of their hard work. And they represent cross-representation of different schools, different departments to really make sure that we have an overall good understanding of the needs of all staff members, and they represent all staff members within our district. And they, I just cannot commend them enough for the tough conversations that we had to have, the opportunities to learn and grow from one another, and we had some great conversations that came out of this room. And it's a commitment of them to themselves, to their sites, to their staff, and to the district as a whole. Now I'm going to turn it over to one of our members, Trish Duran, who's going to kind of do an overview of our IBN process for you.
Hi, how are you tonight? Just wanted to touch base about our process. The process is facilitated by a third-party person, Sheila Sorensen, who did a fabulous job of helping to guide us through each stage. With such a diverse collection of staff from all over the district, making sure that we're all on the same page and sharing our story becomes very important. And having that facilitator to help us guide our stories and process is invaluable. Sorry. No, that was me. I will totally own that. I touched the button.
You want to do it or me?
Oh, I don't know. I don't need that much control. Okay. As you can see from the slide, there is a lot of ground that we covered. And the process takes time and always begins with our stories. Because we aren't in one another's pockets every workday, it takes time to learn what each of our different positions entails and how it benefits the district. So going through and making sure that we understand the context of our communications is very important so that we can set up the foundation for common interest and options that are feasible and balanced for all stakeholders in the process. The process it's always a lot of fun to get to know people you work with that you don't see. That's part of the excitement of it. As you can see from our meeting time on and topics, this was not a short process. We started in December and ended just this past week. We put a lot of time and energy into the process. We had a new administrative team. So each year we welcome in new stakeholders for each separate staff division that meets with us. We also had new members from the classified teams. So building those relationships through communication was vital to the success of the interest-based negotiation process. We collaborated frequently on exploring our working conditions due to the fact that we have minimal funds available to us to solve some issues because we have no override in place. So the timeline really focused on putting together options that would benefit us in our working conditions. And I'm going to turn it over. I'm not going to touch the button. I'm going to give it back to Frank. Oh, I'm not going to give it to Frank. I'm giving it to
You can give it to Frank if you'd like, but I'm going to take it. Members of the board, good evening. My name is Andrew Cupo. I'm the theater teacher at Cactus Shadows High School and a member of the certified team for IBN. So as you can see, this kind of encompasses the purpose of IBN, which is that we were working to create a trusting environment where we could create and problem solve all the challenges, as well as create opportunities for growth for all the members of the staff for Cape Creek Unified School District. We advocated for everyone through transparency, collaboration. We supported each other's ideas and worked to problem solve and solve the things that were sort of came out of the storytelling process. What is that the teachers, that classified, that administrative team needs? So that was the purpose, to find solutions to all of those elements. Once we had come up with and decided on different solutions, we then weighed them against the standards that we had developed at the beginning of the process. So these are the things that we were going to use to determine, are the options we're choosing, are the options we're proposing and recommending to you tonight, options that we could stand beside. And so we came up with these, 8 standards that we use to determine, is this solution affordable, balanced, collaborative, evidence-based, intentional, legal, sustainable, and is it transparent? And I do believe that every option that we are recommending tonight very much follows the standards that we have set forth to make sure that we are doing what's best for our students as well as all stakeholders of Cape Creek Unified School District. I'm not sure who's next. It's whoever's going to talk.
That would be me.
It's going to be, yes, our wonderful CFO, Marcy.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. So they always give me the slide to talk about the money. I don't understand that. But this evening, I just want to share with you how we determine how much available funds for next year. Obviously, the state has not allocated a budget to us yet. They're still working on budget allocations for education. And although they have overridden the AEL, which is great, which means we don't have to do $6.8 million in cuts in March. We were very excited about that. We're thankful. Here's how I look at projecting for next year. So I have to make some assumptions. Now, this year we know we had a decline in enrollment. I am hoping and praying that that does not happen next year. That is an assumption, that there will be no decline in enrollment. You see, I have no growth, but I also say no declining enrollment. So that will be something that we'll need to address if that was to happen and we declined like we did this year. The 2% base level increase, so that 2% goes on the per pupil amount that we're allocated in our funding formula. That 2% is a guaranteed amount. So the way that the law reads is it's either it's 2% or inflation, whichever is less. So I think we can all be pretty assured that inflation is going to be more than 2% this year. So I'm pretty confident about the 2% increase. What that produces, and you can see what this year's budget was, and then what we're projecting for next year, is $586,262 available for additional resources for next year. But we have to put that 5% inflationary rate in there. We see cost of fuel, supplies, services going up. We also will talk later in the presentation about what's it look like for insurance rates next year. So we want to make sure we have an inflation rate in there. So we take that off the top, and then we have available for raises $238,770. Well, that wasn't a whole lot to work with. So Frank and I, the IBN team, when I first presented that to them, they were like, okay, there's not a whole lot we can do with that amount of money. Is there any other money, any other places? Frank and I met for an hour or so, and we talked about some of our different options. And a lot of the additional funding that we have maybe in some other accounts aren't sustainable to give raises with. So if you see on our financial reports, we have fund balances, but those fund balances may be only one-time available types of funds, or we can't use them for salaries. So we really then go back to what kind of savings did we have, or will we have next year if we declined in enrollment, and when we look at our class sizes in our governing board policy, do we have some areas where we can reduce positions? Now, I think all of you are very aware of the fact that we had some teaching positions this year that we were not able to fill, that we might have some long-term subs in. Unfortunately, that's just where we are right now. So we have identified 6 positions that we will not need next year because of the decline in enrollment. So you'll see those positions that were not filled, and they are going to be eliminated through attrition, which means nobody is going to be riffed or laid off, but we just won't fill those positions. And in doing so, we will have $300,000 additional available next year that we didn't have available to us this year, because this year we were paying long-term subs and things like that, contracted employees for those positions. So having said that, total available funds that we went back to the IBN team with was $538,770. So then I'm going to now turn it over back to the IBN team, and I think that Christine and Ann are going to come up and talk to you a little bit about, with those additional funds, what we're able to do.
I'm going to present the priorities of the classified group. Classified employees include bus drivers, instructional aides, paras, administrative assistants, school kitchen staff, security workers, and facility staff. I'm presenting the priorities of this group based on responses to a survey sent to classified employees to prepare for the IBN process. So our priorities are increased pay, zero cost insurance, more paid holidays, and pay for performance.
In order to determine the priorities for our certified employees, we provided an anonymous survey before beginning our IBN process, and a little over than 80% of our certified employees did respond to the survey. And when we analyzed those results to determine our top 3 priorities, we came up with those 3 things being to increase base pay, come up with some general leave payout, and develop a transparent salary schedule. So based on those priorities and our very limited amount of money that we were able to work with, we would like to recommend a 2.5% salary increase for our certified and classified employees, and a 1.5% increase for our administration team on their salaries. This is well below the current rate of inflation, as we know, and does not make us competitive with our pay, but we continue to listen to our staff, and we'd like to do our very best to address the priorities that they have proclaimed and loudly stated in our story that that's what they're interested in.
Thank you, Christine and Annie. As far as medical benefits go, I know last year at the IBN process, you were in the process of switching over benefits from Blue Cross to ASBATE, and so we are going to continue with our current ASBATE insurance. We've gotten some really good feedback from our staff on the services that they are provided with that. So no changes there. We do not know our cost increases, however, as of yet. Those do not come out until March 1st. So we had a preliminary renewal meeting with our team a few weeks back, and they do project that with inflation, there's a potential of up to 5% increase to our rates. However, as Marcy talked about earlier, that increase of 5%, that amount is covered within the 5% inflation that she's already projecting. So if it comes in less than that, then that's what we're hoping for. But the one thing to stress for our staff is that we'll continue to provide a cost-free option for their health account, and no changes to the types of plans that we offer. So I will be coming back to the board at a later time with the information related to the changes in our healthcare cost, our premium costs, once those are available March 1st. So overall, as you look at the salary and benefits recommendations that will be presented at the next board meeting for the board to take action on, we look at a certified salary increase of the 2.5%, which is just over $334,000, 2.5% for classified, just over $160,000, 1.5% for administrators, about $36,000, so grand total of $534,000. Again, Marcy's numbers projected $538,000, and so we're coming in with expenditures $534,000, so working below the available funds that we have there. Before we move on to working conditions, are there any questions from the board members regarding recommendations for compensation? Great job, guys.
You said you'll have an update from ASBATE on the insurance and
Yeah.
coverages March?
Yeah, President Brown. March 1st is when we get those numbers, and then at the March 27th board meeting, I'll be kind of running through what that looks like, what those increases are.
Okay.
Could you clarify, did I understand correctly when you said ASBATE, they've capped the increase at 5%?
No, we're projecting based on what inflation has been, and so if they're at 5%, that's the number we're kind of working under, is the assumption that their increase is going to be 5%, and so we're taking that 5% into our projected increase there. So, yeah, yep.
All right, so good evening, everybody. I'm Jill Serrano, the principal at Sonoran Trails, and I was given the task to speak on behalf of the certified employees with the focus areas of their manageable workload, valuing employees, and setting teachers up for success. I have to say it's commendable what this group did. You've heard it, I think, 3 or 4 different times, but given our circumstances up here in Cave Creek, as a community member, as a parent, and as a staff, as an employee of the district, it's been a tough 3 months. And to see the work that this committee did for multiple days, working together, talking about, tough conversations, but coming back together as one team, as we've all been hearing about for the past year and a half, it was an honor to be a part of that. So, for those of you who know me, I could probably talk for hours about the work that our teachers do each and every day, but we decided as a committee to share a video that Mrs. Karen Dolezal put together about 2 months ago. We were at Sonoran Trails, and so many times, if you're not an educator, you don't understand what that means to seriously not go to the bathroom until 5 o'clock at night. It's hard to explain the reality of, like, you're on your way to the bathroom and then little Johnny says, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? Of course I can. Or, Mrs. Serrano, the principal, says, hey, do you have a couple of minutes? Which actually turns into 22 minutes and so forth. So we thought, wow, what a great opportunity to use. As you all know, we use social media as a platform to really tell our story. And Karen Dolezal did a fabulous job of what we do as teachers each and every day. Someday we'd love to capture what classified staff does as well, while still maintaining our focus on our PLCs, which for year 1 are just doing amazing, investing in the current initiatives that we have, and then building upon what we've done so well already this year. So I'm going to let Erica, or am I pushing play? All right, I'm going to do it. So enjoy. And we're going to see how good you are in lip reading.
So I am on my way in to...
Let's try that one more time.
Great. Good morning. So I am on my way in to a staff meeting. I'm going to the early one today because I have club after school. So I have to be at the 6:45. All right, just finished that meeting. I now get to head over to the high school to teach first period. See you soon.
All right, good morning, guys. We're early. And 3, 2, 1. All right, let's put phones away and get ready to warm up. Let's do a little Zazie Zozu. Ready? And sing. Zazie Zozu. don't forget, nice and open. I took a nap yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Instead of going to the gym, which was like kind of sad. But
All right. Love you, Chloe. Have
Love
a
you
good
too.
one.
Thank you.
See, I have taught. I've been to my meeting this morning at 6:45, jetted over to the high school to start my classes there. I taught choir, honors choir, advanced guitar, and intermediate guitar. Now I have my prep and lunch and travel time to the middle schools.
Miss Dolezal.
Miss Dolezal.
Mrs. Dolezal.
Dolezal.
So something else we have to do are our lesson plans. We always have a learning target that our students have to hit.
Another thing I like to do before class starts here at the middle school, I eat my lunch at the same time, but I like to just check on grade progress.
So I wanted you to see what I have to put on the board before every class. So we are at the middle school right now, and this is just, we always have to put our ICANs, what the students are what they should be able to do, their bell work, and then our quick agenda. So it's another end of the day. I am off to get ready for a cappella choir club at Sonoran Trails. So it's Saturday. I am home after the one team event, which was just outstanding. And I think even me doing this project has opened my eyes to the fact that even teachers don't know what each other does. I am sitting here honestly planning for my concert Tuesday night. Those of us that have been in this career, we do this because we love our kids. We do this because we want the best for them. And we are extremely proud of being just a little part of their lives. Being a teacher is hard. Being a teacher is crazy. Being a teacher is rewarding.
No, it's not allowing me.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I'm Danny Moore, Director of Transportation. So in looking with the classified employees, reviewing staff allocations and workload, maximizing recruitment opportunities to ensure positions are filled, reviewing staff allocations based on site needs and their sizes, providing flexible options of working 4 10-hour days or 5 8-hour days during fall and spring break. As a district, we have already started bringing attention to discussing protected work schedules, respecting that classified employees are their off-duty time. We have a lot of good-willed employees that will clock out for a shift and continue to help. We have a very service-oriented staff. And finally, with the continued professional development, surveying classified staff regarding what topics for professional development are most useful and relevant to their position, and differentiating professional development based on experience levels.
Thank you, Danny and Jill. And so when you really look at working conditions, really the focus is on is how do we create cultures and climates at our schools that really embrace our teachers, support them, let us know that they feel valued, and really focus on staff morale and overall staff mental health. And that's one of the things that kind of in my role I've seen is the impact on kind of what's happening in our world and teaching on staff mental health. And so by maximizing our working conditions, putting the best leaders in our buildings and making sure that we're setting up our teachers for success and our employees for success really was a focus and at the heart of the conversations regarding working conditions, and will be some action items that the cabinet will be kind of putting forward in future agenda topics and future policy reviews as well. So after we went through the process of looking at how much money do we have to look at compensation, after we kind of finalized working conditions, we made our wish list. Our wish list, if we got new money to our district from the governor's office, and something that we were able to get this past year when we were able to give an additional 4% raise after the school year started. And so our team then went back and prioritized. We have what we're going to recommend to the governing board, but should additional monies become available, where would those be allocated to? And so overwhelming, the teams kind of prioritized those. Additional salary increases for all staff was high up there. An attendance incentive. One of the things we started kind of exploring was if we reward teachers for taking less than, let's say, 3 days off. And we know every time a teacher's out, there's a cost to that. So maybe if a teacher takes less than 3 days off, we reward them by allowing them to buy out 3 days of their general leave. And so there could be a cost savings to that. We need to dig into that a little bit deeper before we go down that road, but maybe allows us to incentivize our staff being here, or staff that are at the end of their maybe not returning to us the following year, burning days, and we end up having to pay for subs each and every day for those. That's hard on our students. That's hard on other staff members. So by kind of dangling a carrot there was a focus. General leave payout structure. Prior to me coming to Cave Creek, that was something that was in place, is where teachers that had more than, I want to say 10 years or 440 hours, anything over 440, they can get paid out for at the end of, or the beginning of next year. So going back to that, looking at that, there's additional pay. And then additional paid holidays for 10 and 11-month employees. Again, incentive to when we're looking to recruit some of these paraeducators, kitchen staff members, things like that. How can we do additional paid holidays? We can do additional paid holidays for 12-month employees. There is no cost to that. We would simply build in, let's say, spring break or fall break. They would be paid to be off. Currently they work, so there's not a cost to that, but that would maybe something that we would include for all of our classified employees there. As I mentioned earlier, we will be bringing back to the governing board on the February 27th board meeting recommendation for action to be taken on the compensation increases for classified certified administration. So you'll see that on the agenda. And with that, are there any final questions or comments from the board?
Can you scroll back to the classified staff? Oh, that one right there. Thank you. Explain a little bit more on the flexible hours during breaks.
Absolutely, Member Brown. So currently during summer, we go into a 4-10 work week, 4 10-hour days, which I think for the most part we really enjoy. We really like that. Allows us to have those 3-day weekends. During our fall and spring break, it's traditionally, well, fall break this year, it's traditionally been we go to a 4-day work week during that week. Kind of the feedback we got from some of our classified staff members is that's a quick switch. You go from a normal work week, then this quick 4-10 work week, and then back again. And because it's such a short window, they said, hey, how come we cannot sustain maybe just do 5 8-hour days, or if someone wants to do 4 10-hour days, they have those options. So that's something that we're going to explore. We got to kind of work with our departments to determine, can all departments do this, or do we need coverage on Friday? So certain staff members do the 8 5-hour shifts, others do the 4 10-hour shifts. No cost difference to the district there, just giving that flexibility to our classified staff members.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I had a question for I think it was goal number 3 for the certified staff. A very clear transparent salary schedule. Is that something that you guys are working on?
Yeah, so one of the input, the feedback I got from our certified staff members is in most districts you have kind of a stepless salary schedule where you have, here's our entry, we pay $500 for additional years up to 10 years, masters, it's a very calculated formula. Me coming in new to this position, that would be ideal. However, because of so many changes in how we've put people in for salaries, we don't have a definitive way to say, hey, we're going to give $100 a year, because if we were to do that, when so many of our staff members have been frozen for so long in prior years, if I paid someone with 10 years experience to come in, they're going to be jumping over all of our 10-year current employees and salaries. And so one of the things that I'm very cognitive of is that I do not jump any of our current employees. And so if you have 10 years experience with your masters, I see who has 10 years of experience with their masters, and I kind of match those up. So that's what we're hoping to get to, is to be able to clean that up. One of the focuses is if we get additional compensation, to try to tweak out some of those things to then say, hey, after every year of experience, this is what we would give. Frankly, with our low budget, I don't think it would be a good recruitment tool if we say, hey, we're going to give you $50 a year for every year that you've worked. I don't think that's going to attract too many people. Most districts give $300, $400, $500 for every year of service that they have. And so that's something that we're going to continue to work on. I've had great conversations with our CCEA reps on what does that look like, and try to make it as transparent as possible.
I wanted to just get some feedback on the certified employees and their working conditions, if anybody can speak to that. Because we've heard as a board, and we've heard, several teachers have come up and talked about that, and we've heard it when we visited the schools. So can anybody share some of the things that they're looking for and that they're desiring to have this more manageable workload and feel valued and set up for success? I'd like to, if there's anything that you can talk to that, I'd really like that.
Member Fortney, I think if Trish, would you be okay coming up? And she could talk, just a lot of the discussion we had talked about the value of the early release day and how that has really helped in some areas. However, we also have to be careful about not overscheduling that day because in order for them to get that time, sometimes they have to travel and get to each other. And so Trish can talk a little bit more about some of those conversations, but that's one of the things that we definitely discussed.
Sure. Management workloads around the early release days. We had asked for a structured schedule that allowed us time on-site with our on-site teaching teams, as well as our grade level teams, because many of the lower elementary teachers, they teach all subjects and they have multiple teachers on campus, so they have an on-campus team. But for example, I teach 6th grade ELA and social studies. I'm a unicorn on my campus. There's only one of me. So for me to be able to work in a PLC with grade level commensurate other people, I have to travel to other campuses to do that. The early release has been nice in being able to get together and compare apples to apples, practices, data analyses, and other things as we get together with our grade level teams. It's also given rise to some great things that have benefited the district. We did some summer work together. We rewrote a writing guide that's used in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade now. I think we put together a consistent list of academic terminology that we teach in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So there have been some great outcomes in those PLC meetings. Setting teachers up for success. I know that we've spoken of our mentor teacher program and differentiating some of the levels that we deliver that to our higher ends that have experience teaching as opposed to teachers that have never taught before. They each have different needs within that, and I think that we could probably tweak our mentoring program to make it more attractive and more user-friendly for all of the mentees and the mentors. So things along that line are the things that we're talking about.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who worked on this IBN, because I know just without even the IBN piece of it, you guys all have very, very busy days. And to add one more thing in is just that one more thing. And I truly appreciate the commitment that you made, and I think I speak for everybody that sits up here. We really appreciate it, because without you guys coming together, we can't do anything to help you. You got to help us so we can help you, essentially. So thank you. I do have a question going back to the ASBATE.
Yes.
What happens to this whole model that you've kind of mapped out here if ASBATE comes back with a higher than 5% increase?
So a couple of the things that we might look at with that is, for instance, currently our free plan is our bronze PPO, traditional PPO plan. So maybe our free plan becomes an HSA. You could look at that, and that becomes a paid up model. Or we go back to Marcy, ask her to turn over some more rocks and find additional money. We look at, I don't want to speak for Marcy, but any rollover dollars that we might have that would then offset that. That typically goes into kind of building our savings for that, but looking at ways that we do it that way. So,
okay, thank you. One other question that I have, and maybe, I don't know if I'm going to actually get a response from this or not, but from a lot of teachers, I've heard that they feel like there are more hoops to jump through, either in the day, the month, the school year, whatever, than in prior years. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, or if some portion of that is true, perhaps that's something that can be looked into, because our staff is really busy as it is, and the more things we're asking them to do, and in itself maybe asking them to do a survey after a PLC, yeah, it's useful information, but it's one more thing. And it's, you know, is the value really there for the people who are participating in the PLC to fill that survey out? And so that might be something, not just like a survey, but just in general, are we...
President Busby, can you...
I think you were in the room listening to our conversation, because those were conversations that we had that were really good conversations.
Yes, we did have some wonderful questions, and if anybody would like to chime in after this, but one of the things we really discussed was how much it hinders the teachers to have to get all of their supplemental resources approved. That's something we can't help. That's something you guys can't help. That was something that came down from the legislature. So that's one of the things that's a hoop they're having to jump through. If they want to show a video from YouTube, they have to make sure it's on that list before, and that's a horrific hoop, because it would be so easy if they're, oh, I saw that motivational video, I want to share it, or this short, or whatever, but they can't do that. So that was definitely a big part of the conversation, and again, it's nothing we can do here, I mean, other than lobbying at the legislature, which I don't think they're going to do anything about it anytime soon, but that was one of probably the most prevalent area that's a unnecessary, or it feels unnecessary, hoop that they used to be trusted as professionals, and now the narrative has shifted to teachers are trying to hide things in their classroom, so we better go looking for them and we better find them. And so that's kind of that has been difficult. Do any of you have anything to add to that piece? I mean, I know there's been a couple people who have said, well, we don't want to do a survey at the end of a staff development. The flip side of that is that's used as their sign-in sheet so that there's some level of accountability for who attended. And then the other side of that is feedback for the presenters, if it's a presentation, so that the presenters can constantly be getting better. But we have to have some levels of accountability, and but that supplemental has been a difficult one.
And President Busby and Governor Ware, if I can kind of play off that a little bit. You know, the PLC process being new this year, one of the things we heard is that, you know, kind of building the agenda or the minutes, you know, that can take time within the meeting. So how do we make those processes more efficient? And so we got some really good feedback from our teacher group saying, you know, what is necessary, what is not necessary? And if it's necessary, can we have input to make this the most efficient process? And so I know Mrs. Scott and Dr. Jensen will go back to their executive teams and say, okay, must we do? What do we wish we can kind of get rid of and cut some things there and make it more streamlined? So those are things that are being looked at as a result of the process. The other thing we heard loud and clear was no new initiatives. You know, this year we had power schools rolling out PLCs, the new evaluation instrument, and so that's our intent, to have no new initiatives. We've got some great initiatives in place. Let's maximize and get really good at this, and that's the messaging that we've had with our team the entire time. And unless it's no new initiatives unless state mandated is what we said. Yeah. So,
and the mandates need to come with money.
Absolutely. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I am not an educator, and I will never pretend that I ever have been. I've spent a lot of time in classrooms, and I have such a deep empathy for what all of you do, and it's just. I sit here and I want to try to figure out how to make this work, because all of you are so valuable that this is truly a collective effort. It's not you against us or vice versa. This is about all of us, and we have to come together to figure out how to make it work so we can go forward collectively and make us as great as we can be. All right, I'm done. Anybody else?
Just one quick question on, I know later in the agenda on our new business, we're going to approve contracts for the upcoming school year. A couple of those items that were in the classified staff list, I think the one about being able to buy or pay out your unused hours, is that something legally then we would need to put that into their contracts?
It would need to be President Brown or Vice President Brown. It would need to go back into policy that they can buy out X amount of hours. And so that's one of the things we're not recommending this year. We want to do a little bit more digging into it. Okay. We started looking at, because currently they can buy out if they're been employed for at least 10 years. So we're looking at options, maybe 5 years, because we know the new teachers we're hiring, they're not here for the long term. They're here for that short term. And so if we can save a little bit money on substitute teachers by incentivizing them not using their days, which is an impact to the staff. So we're looking at different 5-year payout, 7-year payout, things like that. So we're going to do a little bit more digging. It would have to go into policy there. And then it is built into contracts and additional compensation should additional revenues become available. Okay. There is ways that illegally can get paid out.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, well, thank you again, everybody. We really appreciate the time, effort, energy, and everything you gave up to be part of your IBN committee. Item 3.4, review and discuss board policy BEDBA, agenda preparation. This is presented by Vice President Brown.
Thank you, President Busby. I'll just read the background piece real quick. At the January 23rd, 2023 board meeting, the governing board voted 4-0 to have the above item placed on an upcoming agenda. So this is the presentation of this. This is our policy BEDBA, which is agenda preparation. This was a policy that was changed back. The current policy was adopted in March of 2019. And the item of having to have the entire board to vote on whether or not an item to be placed on an agenda is the piece that was changed to that. What I'm proposing is that we go back to the prior policy, which gave board members a little more freedom of getting items on agendas. It was a submitted item at least 10 working days before a meeting, a brief title, description, and the intent for including it on an upcoming agenda. That's sent into the superintendent and to the board president. Obviously, there's scheduling issue. If an upcoming meeting's rather full, it might get pushed back to the next meeting. But what that does is that gives the board members who have different contacts and different views in the community, gives them a chance to get items on an agenda for at least a discussion piece without having to go through that original vote to have it placed on. I think that gives us then the flexibility as board members as we're out visiting the sites, talking to staff, talking to parents, that if something comes up, we can submit that. And like I said, this was the original, or this was the prior policy to submit an item 10 days before. There was a simple form that was in our policy manual that would still be used, and then just to make sure it was within our scope of being governing board, if it's something that we're able to discuss for the future of the district or for whatever the item may be. So my proposal is to go back to that original, or to go back to the prior policy, along with the making sure then that form to fill out as you would submit that to the board, that would be put back into our policy manual, and then we'd be able to move forward on all of us as board members being able to put items on agendas a little easier maybe.
I know that you've done a little bit of research on this. Do other school districts have a similar policy about putting agenda items or getting items on the agenda?
The 5 or 6 of our neighboring school districts, nobody has the same policy about agenda items like we do. We're very unique in that. Most of the school districts have either a 5, an 8-day, or a 10-day window before a scheduled meeting if a board member wishes to have something placed on the agenda.
So none of the districts require a vote to place it on the agenda?
That is correct. None that I could find. We're rather unique in how this policy was changed.
Okay. Well, personally, I think having the policy revamped back to something more similar to what we had speaks to a lot more transparency. Because frankly, the way that our agenda process is set up right now, if it doesn't allow for transparency, because something can be that may be of high interest to the community, but a few board members don't agree with that. They can just say, nope, we don't want it on there, and it dies. And we've been elected by this community, and it's important that we present ourselves in the most transparent way that we can, and it starts with how our agenda is set up. And so, to jump through multiple hoops to get something on the agenda, it gets a little cumbersome, and it doesn't matter who it is on the board. If there's something that is of enough importance that you feel strongly to have it on the agenda, we should have that opportunity. So, any other comments?
Well, when I was running for this, I was looking at a lot of things about what a board does, and it basically says you work together as a unit. And I think that, as we've talked about before, we are not these other districts. We're Cave Creek, and I think that this ability to have the board vote seems like that's how it's supposed to run. I wonder about this because, anybody just putting anything on there, it just seems that we're setting ourselves up for who knows what. But, it's interesting because I can see that if you stay with that, I can see what you're saying, because there may be chances where some people don't get anything on the agenda because the majority doesn't do it. And so if that were the case, then maybe those people would never get heard. But I still think that voting is what this board does. We vote on everything. We vote on the pay. We vote on all the policies. I don't see taking and saying, okay, we're not going to vote on this stuff. We're just going to put it on there. And you think about some of the things that we've gone through over the past 2 years. I've been shut down. You guys have been shut down. We'd have to talk about all those. These board meetings are long already. I mean, I can't imagine if everybody's putting all their stuff on all the time and it just gets voted and it doesn't even get voted on. Yeah, it seems like voting by the group for the things keeps things from being put on there that don't need to be on there. So I think that's part of the process. So that's just my thought about that.
Just for clarification, it's on the agenda, we discuss it, and then if it's something to be voted on, we would still vote on it as a group, correct?
Initially, if somebody wants to put on the agenda that widgets should be painted purple, the board has to vote to decide if we want to have a discussion about that. If it makes it to the agenda, we can have a discussion like we're doing now. And at the conclusion of the discussion, either somebody will make a motion to then bring it back where we vote on it, or nothing happens. But the piece that I sense, or I'm gathering from Scott, is the process of actually getting it on the agenda in the first place. That's what I think he is asking us to look at and reconsider how we actually get it to the agenda. There's an extra step in it right now.
If the board wishes, like I said, I've got what was the prior policy. I can get copies of this made, or we can get it sent out, and then we can bring this back and have another discussion on this again if we wish. If you want to look, I can pull the policies from the other districts. You can see some of the differences between a district that asked just for 5 days notice before a meeting for an agenda item up to the 10 days, which is what we used to have, was the 10 days before a meeting. And then you could look at our current policy and what was our prior policy, and maybe think about it that way. And then we can always ask, I can do another presentation.
Well, let me ask you this. The original policy that we had, is that copyrighted?
No, these are our policies.
Okay.
There's no
copyrighted
copyright.
policies are ones that come directly from ASBA. The other ones are our homegrown modifications.
Yeah, no, this was one of ours. The prior year, I believe this was adopted in 2008. Then it was modified a little bit in 2019, and then we changed it to the current policy in March of 2019.
Do you have any of the policies from the other school districts?
Oh, I don't think I have them with me tonight.
Okay.
President
pulled.
Busby, what we can do is for the next meeting, for our next board meeting, we can bring in the copyrighted piece from ASBA, where you guys can then discuss if there's any changes to that, or if we want to look at that as an action item. So we
Okay.
can bring in that copyrighted piece straight from ASBA.
Well, then, that's what I would like to do, is have this brought back for the next agenda.
Compare. Okay.
So that we
Staff can do that.
Okay.
It'd be nice as like on the transparency front, because I find a lot of our, I don't want to get non-efficient and get way too deep in the weeds with operations versus oversight. As a committee, that's kind of our role, is oversight over operations. But it'd be nice to see the comparison of the few, and also like all of our board questions that get asked. If there's some way of getting that out to the public, because some things I think that would maybe could become future agenda items. We end up getting the answers to in our board questions, and that would kind of help a lot with transparency, and not really. It would be more efficient than putting it through as an agenda item when we kind of know the answers, but maybe the public doesn't.
Well, how we handle board questions, that's a totally different topic than the agenda. So that could be something that shows up separately from this one.
Yeah.
But as a whole, we want to bring this back to the next agenda. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
We've had the discussion about the board questions in the past,
Yes,
but I thought
we have.
we've ran into some roadblocks with that.
We have. And so we can possibly explore some other avenues on how to better disseminate the information so that it's readily available to all who care.
So what we can do is, because you've already discussed it, we can bring it in as an action item where you can still discuss if you want to make any changes to that policy.
Perfect.
Okay?
Perfect.
Can I just ask since we weren't here at the time, what precipitated this change to have it go from just everybody putting their stuff on to having the board vote on it as a whole? What caused that change?
In the past, before the policy was changed, if something was brought by a board member, it was usually timely. It was an issue that had come up at a school site or with a parent or with a group, and it was easier then, because if it was that important, that we had then the the chance to put it on an agenda a little quicker instead of, because when we put it on the agenda now with it's no discussion, it's just a vote, then it carries over to the next meeting. If we're in a month that only has one meeting, then we may be 6 weeks before we discuss this item. And if it was something timely, we've kind of lost that.
But
Plus, then we get, we'll get the feedback, well, what are you guys doing? We thought maybe the board would talk about it. There's been issues in the past that haven't come up to the board, and we've had parents, ask us, why didn't the board discuss it? It's like, it was never on the agenda. We couldn't discuss it.
But
To answer your question, I'm trying to figure out how to be politically correct here. It was a way to control what went on the agenda. It was. I can't think of a more polite way to say that.
For what?
To control what went on the agenda.
Okay.
And it was a way to shut down some of the board members. That's what it was for. And I don't think that is what we collectively want to do. Everybody deserves to be heard, and it's important that we try as hard as we can to be as transparent and show unity so that we can collectively move forward together. And so this whole policy was, honestly, I'm not really sure why it ended up like this, but I know that there were issues.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Moving right along. Item 4.0, action consent. Is there a motion to approve action consent as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? Any nays? Abstains? All right. 4.0 is approved. Item 4.1, meeting minutes from January 23rd, 2023. Okay. This was pulled out because Member Ulmer was not present at the meeting. So is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any nays? Item 4.1 passes. All right. Item 4.8, a first and final reading of policy JFABDA, admission of students in foster care. And Vice President Brown pulled this out. So first, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just pulled this out just because it was a change of policy, and I just thought it was just to make sure we had a chance, if anybody had any questions about it, to discuss it before we voted.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? All right, 4.8 passes. All right, under old business, 5.1, approval of the revised salary schedule for 2022-2023, substitute rates presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
Busby, members of the board. Administration is presenting for approval of the revised salary schedule for the 22-23 substitute rates. The revision is an increase to the hourly rate of $35 for homebound instructors, home-based instructors, and adding the ESY teachers in order to stay competitive with surrounding districts. We recommend approval of this item.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Have we been, how far behind have we been, if we're raising this up to $35 hourly, have we been way off the schedule?
Member Brown, we were at $25 an hour. Most of our competitors around us are $35 an hour. And the problem being is we simply do not, a lot of these homebound teachers are teachers within our district currently. And when we go out and ask for homebound instructors or ESY teachers, it's just simply is not enough that would pique their interest. So we're hoping to kind of encourage more of them to take part when we do need these.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Hendrickson, how big of a financial difference is this going to make to the bottom line?
President Busby, I'm going to ask Mr. Karpinski, I know he just walked in, just to kind of give some insight on as far as how many individuals we're looking at, how often we use these. These are all funds that are paid out of IDEA grants as well. But overall, how many homebound instructors do you typically need, or ESY?
Good evening, governing board members. Sorry for being late. We had our first ESS Parent Engagement Council meeting this evening, and it went very well. The ESY instructors and home instructors will be coming out of our IDEA grant. Last year we had 3 ESY teachers, and we are currently looking for 2 homebound instructors for this current school year.
Thank you.
And as far as overall cost, what that would look like, that's something that we can bring back to the board as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
As information or as a board update?
Okay.
Due to the fact that it can fluctuate if we have no homebound each
Sure.
year, so it's not a consistent amount that's
Perfect.
going to.
But is that
Yep.
entire amount paid for by the grant?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Under new business, item 6.3, request to authorize request for proposal for E-rate network switching and wireless access equipment, presented by Mrs. Rodriguez.
Yes, good evening, Madam President, members of the board. So a little bit of background about this. We have E-rate funds that are available to us through a federal E-rate grant. There are 2 different levels of E-rate. There is an E-rate that is a first level, which is a reimbursement for our network connectivity, so our internet. The second one, which this is what the RFP is going to allow us to request funding for, is the network structure itself. Because we are such a low free reduced lunch district, we get a minimum match percentage, which is the 40% that the federal E-rate program will give us, and then we pay for the other 60%. But in order to apply these monies, you have to have competitive quotes to submit. So there's this whole formal process. So that is why this request is on the governing board for approval this evening, is so that we can apply for these funds. Now, once we apply for these funds and we get our project approved, then it will become the discretion of the district administration and recommendations to the board, where we will actually implement some of these programs. So this is the first step, is going out for the RFP and asking for the quotes for what we know our network infrastructure needs. We have servers in this district that are over 15 years old. It makes me very nervous that we have some infrastructure and routers and switches that are at the end of their life. So any little bit of support we can get through this program would be appreciated. Once we get the RFP responses, we will bring them back to the governing board. You will then approve who the vendors are that have responded to the RFP, and then we will submit that as part of our application process for the funds. So I move that the governing board authorize the issuance of the request for proposal for E-rate network switching and wireless access equipment, and allowing a multiple term award.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions?
Mrs. Rodriguez, this says it's a fixed 5-year funding cycle.
Yes, so that is what we're going to be asking for the E-rate approval on. So once we get the approval from E-rate, then we're guaranteed to get funding for the next 5 years. So that's kind of what that guaranteed means. It does not mean that that vendor will get that money. It just gives us the ability to say, we want the funding for that amount. And then we make the determination whether we can move forward or not based on our limited funds and whether we can match the 60%.
And then how long will the RFP be out? What's the deadline for those to come back to the district?
Ms. Celsi, do you have the answer to that?
Are we like
don't have that date.
60?
It's usually just a few weeks that it needs to be
Okay,
out.
so rather quick then to get the quotes back.
Good evening, members of the board. It is 28 days is the window that it must be posted. And then at the end of that 28 days, we'll have a sealed bid to review with our team. And then, as Ms. Rodriguez said, we will bring a recommendation to the board once we've reviewed the sealed bids.
And then this folds right into your ongoing 3-year technology plan. Obviously, we're able to upgrade some of our equipment.
Yes, sir. This falls in line with that.
Great, thank you.
I have a couple questions. Does this only fall for the switches and your APs?
So category 2 does fall in line with switches, routers. Unfortunately, it doesn't fall in line with servers. There is some talk at the state level to see if it can also extend and provide some additional components, but that's still just talk right now. So for this application term, it will be the switches, the routers, and oh heavens.
Access points.
Yes,
Access
thank
points.
you.
Yeah. Most of those all have a service contract, an annual service contract on top of that. Is that
Correct.
covered within E-rate, or does that have a different bucket that it falls under?
It falls under the access. So
Okay.
you're absolutely correct.
Okay. I think that's it.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstains. All right, motion passes. That was 6.3. 6.4, approval of certified professional non-CSF eligible contract language for the 2023-2024 school year, and this is presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Busby, members of the board, administration is presenting the certified professional non-classroom site fund eligible contract language for approval. Contracts will be issued to all certified employees on or around March 6th. We move that the governing board approve the certified professional non-CSF eligible contract language for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions?
Contracts go out, you said March 6th. When do they have to be returned back in?
That is, yes, Vice President Brown, March 6th is our target date. It is a 15 business day window. And so I want to say that falls, if I can look real quick. March 27th would be day 15 because it's a 4-day work week for spring break, so we can't count one of those days. So March 27th would be the deadline for teachers to return them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Motion passes. 6.5, approval of certified contract language for the 2023-2024 school year for certified classroom teachers, also presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
It is my night. Administration is presenting the certified contract language for certified classroom teachers for approval. Again, contracts will be issued to all certified employees on or around March 6th. We move that the governing board approve the certified contract language for the 23-24 school year for certified classroom teachers as presented.
Is there a motion? Second?
Second.
Any questions?
I do have a question on this. At the very top of the contract, the first page, under number 1, district agrees to employ teacher 186 days during the fiscal year, commencing on X's and ending on X's. So then you would fill the dates in of our beginning of our school year, ending of our school year.
Vice President Brown, members of the board, that is correct. So for the first teacher workday, which is going to be 5 days before the first day of school, and then commencing 1 day after students get out. So March 20th timeline would be the days.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. 6.6, approval of employment contract language for the 2023-2024 school year for special services professional, presented by Dr. Hendrickson.
President Busby, members of the board, administration is presenting the employment contract language for approval for the salaried exempt professional staff, which includes psychologists, speech paths, social workers, therapists, and nurses that comprise special support services. Contracts and agreements will be issued on or around March 6, 2023. We move that the governing board approve the employment contract language for the 23-24 school year for special services professionals as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstains? Motion passes. All right, Dr. Hendrickson, this is your night. 6.7, approval of terminating certified contract language for the 2023-2024 school year for the certified classroom teacher. Dr. Hendrickson.
President Busby, members of the board, administration is presenting the terminating certified contract language for the 23-24 school year for certified classroom teachers as presented. Contracts will be issued to all certified employees hired after June 1st, 2023, this terminating contract. Move that the governing board approve the terminating certified contract language for the 23-24 school year for certified classroom teachers as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Hendrickson. All right, we have no future agenda items. Upcoming calendar events, 8.1.
President Busby, members of the board, we'd like to remind everyone that on February 20th is President's Day. The schools and district offices will be closed, and we have our next job fair here at the district office on February 21st from 4 to 7 p.m.
Thank you. Okie dokie. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion passes.